The NHL playoffs is when size, skill, and snarl are on full display. And next month's upcoming NHL draft has got a handful of players that fit that bill. So today we're going to be taking a look at the 5 biggest hitters in the upcoming NHL draft. Hey everybody, welcome into Clearing the Benches, your one-stop shop for hockey content. If you go ahead and hit your subscribe button right now, you'll be sure to be in on all of our future videos. Well, when I talk about big hitters, I am not talking about, like a Zdeno Chara, Radko Gudas, Jacob Trouba type, a little bit, but not like at the forefront. I'm really talking about guys who are just smothering. They will hit you every chance they can. Whether they're a defenseman, center, or a wing, when you go by them, they're going to give you a little piece of themselves, and they're going to let you know they're out there. So today, number 1 on our list, and you're going to be hearing this kid's name a lot, and I think he is going to rocket up the draft boards. And currently, I've got him going at number 6 to the Philadelphia Flyers, where Rick Tocchet and that fan base would absolutely love this kid. And I am talking about Kayshawn Aitchison. He is aggro to the most aggroist. He's upbeat. He's got a great personality. He definitely thinks D first, but he scored 26 goals this year. He's 6'1". He's 200 pounds. He is fierce defensively. This is the guy, if you're going to think Radko Gudas aggro, this is the guy to think about. He's just that guy. It's almost like he's got a personal vendetta against you once you come over the blue line. We see that a lot. Guys like Trouba, guys like Gudas, it's like they don't like you for some reason and they're going to make you pay. That is what Kayshawn Aitchison does. I think he's going to be a future captain for whatever team drafts him, and I think for sure a fan favorite. Number 2, out of the Sioux, Brady Martin. We've talked about this kid quite often too. Reminds me a lot of former Arizona Coyotes draft pick Connor Geekie. He's got that similar build, similar mentality. If you were to watch them side by side on the ice, first thing is they hit everything that comes their way, like magnets to physical contact. Connor Geekie, we saw grow this year in terms of his game, and I do think some of his physicality led to his offensive potential growth for Tampa Bay. I think they've got themselves a kid they're going to love for years to come. And Brady Martin reminds me a lot of him. The Sioux puts out a lot of physical guys. Recently, Barrett Hayden of the Coyotes came out of the Sioux. We all know that Rick Tocchet went to played for the Sioux back in the day. Brady Martin hits everything that moves. He's just like amped up to the max. He could become like a Kachuk type player. You look at him and he always looks like he's looking to grab onto the next guy and drive him into the boards. 72 points in 57 games. Very, very skilled. I can't help but think that a guy like General Manager Bill Armstrong in Utah wouldn't be just frothing over this guy. We'll see. A lot of rankings have him going between 8 and 12, but, it all comes down to personal preference. I don't think Brady Martin's getting out of the top 5. Next up on our list of big hitting prospects, and this is a kid coming out of Russia. He's playing in Moscow Dynamo right now. 6'5", 210 pounds. Daniil Proarov. He's a right wing, but he's left-handed shot. He is kind of like a loose cannon out there. Sometimes you don't know if his emotions are going to get the best of him. Sometimes they say he's almost overly too physical, if that's such a thing in hockey. He's got a great shot, though. And, when you think about a guy who plays, with that edge and you kind of don't know what you're getting and in such a big body, I think of like Montreal Canadiens' Arbor Jack guy. I know they play, different positions, a wing versus a defenseman, but that same kind of mentality. of just, big. And this kid can fly too. He is very, very quick. He's speedy. And again, he hits everything that comes his way. I think he could go late first round, maybe early second round. But I see teams that love physicality. And again, if you've got a bunch of smaller forwards up front, like most of the teams picking up high do, San Jose's got a lot of, smaller high flyers. Chicago, same thing when you look at their pipeline. The Anaheim Ducks are a little bit more of like the beefier types, Leo Carlson, Seneca. You had McTavish a few years back. So when I look at a kid like Proarov, maybe a team like Anaheim would trade up late in the first round to get him, because I think he's definitely somebody that the teams that are looking to make the playoff jump real soon, and I think those teams at the bottom are going to be in the playoffs within 2 years, and a kid like this could really help you along the way. So Daniil Proarov is number 3 on our list of big hitters. Number 4, a name familiar in the NHL, Blake Fiddler, 6'4", 210 pounds. His dad, Vern Fiddler. I remember watching his dad play when I was a kid, and his dad was just one of those guys, always on the forecheck, always pesky, kind of a pain in the neck player. It was one of those guys, you didn't really think too much about him until he was out on the ice and he was being a pain in the neck and he was disrupting something. And you're like, where did this guy just come from? I didn't see him all game long, and all of a sudden, he breaks up a big play. Blake Fiddler is a big kid. When you look at an NHL comparison body-wise, think of a guy like Brandon Carlo on the Maple Leafs. I know Carlo didn't have the best playoffs this past playoffs, but overall, that's the type of game that a kid like Fiddler is going to bring to the NHL. He's from Nashville. He was born there when his dad was playing on the Preds. He went through the Dallas Stars youth system, and that system also produced another big hitter, Seth Jones, and a guy who likes to smother and hit and is just a great penalty killer and pesky, Blake Coleman. 2 physical guys, and Blake Fiddler is for sure going to be physical when he gets to the NHL. So when you see your team drafting, if they happen to call his name, a guy who's always going to be engaged, and more than likely he's going to be up in his opponent's grill. And finally, number 5 on our list of the biggest hitters in the 2025 NHL draft, another kid we've spoken about, and another kid, he was going to be rising up, but then he had an Achilles injury in March, and now they're saying he could drop to the teens, maybe even the low 20s. I personally love this kid's game, and I would take a chance on him. If my New York Rangers hold on to that 12th pick and Carter Bear is available, I'm going to hope they run to the podium and scream his name. This kid is 6 foot, 180 pounds, very versatile, can play center or on the wing. Another guy smothers the opponents. He 40 goals in 56 games, so he's a turn and burn sniper. He's a guy, he can, come up behind you, grab that puck, and by the time you realize it, he's already, 5 feet up the ice the other way, going with a head of speed. When you look at him, again, the Achilles injury is the only thing keeping this kid from being a top 10 player. He loves boards play. He loves to play along the boards. He's going to win the majority of one-on-one battles if there's a loose puck. He needs to put on some muscle. He's only 180 pounds, but the kid's only 17 years old or whatever he is, maybe 18 years old. So if he puts on 20 pounds in the next 3 years, he'll be 200 pounds. 6 foot, 200, that's pretty good size. When you look at a guy that's playing like him right now, who's in the NHL, Philadelphia Flyers, Travis Konechny. As a New York Rangers fan, I always liked Konechny's game. He was just a thorn in the side of the Rangers. When I see him, that's the kind of guy, pesky comes to mind. That's the word. But a guy like Carter Bear can also put the puck in the net, 40 goals in just 56 games. So there you have it. There's our top 5 biggest hitters in this upcoming NHL draft. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Maybe there's a big hitter we didn't talk about that you want to talk about in a future video. If you could, please hit your like button, hit your subscribe button, and as we always do here at Clearing the Benches, let them know you're out there.